Bluefin Registries Tails Up Podcast, episode number 3. The Bluefin Registry is a virtual museum of fishing tales. We are dedicated to promoting and preserving the story, sport, and spirit of bluefin tuna fishing while attempting to capture a piece of Americana. Our goal is to increase awareness by interviewing and recording bluefin tuna fishermen and industry experts from coast to coast and sometimes from around the world. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that will help us bring our fishing skills and understanding of the delicate issues surrounding the bluefin tuna to the next level.
Hi, this is Matt Rigney, author of In Pursuit of Giants, One Man's Global Search for the Last of the Great Fish, and you're listening to the Bluefin Registries Tails Up podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jay Scott, your host of the Bluefin Registries Tails Up podcast, and I am psyched to have you here today. I think you're going to really enjoy this show. We get to speak with Scott Ferriero from Wicked Tuna and the FV Bounty Hunter. And Scott gives us all kinds of insights into tuna fishing, Googans, talking about the things that happen behind the scenes on the show, and all kinds of other things about how he got into fishing, his relationship with the other captains, and the relationship with his crew, and all the good things that go along with tuna fishing off the coast of Massachusetts. So stay tuned, and hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Jay Scott, your host of the Bluefin Registries Tails Up podcast, and I am here with none other than Scott Ferriero from Wicked Tuna. Scott, welcome to the show.
Morning, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing very well. I'm excited to have you on the show, and thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Cool.
Thank you for inviting me.
Where are you currently?
I am currently in Beverly, where I live. Born, raised here in Beverly. Beautiful city. Yep. And, just down the street from Gloucester.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. How did you actually get into tuna fishing in the first place?
That's a funny story. Some 27, 28 years ago now, I had a friend of mine who decided that he was going to buy a boat and he was going to bluefin tuna fish. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what that was. I know what a flounder was. I know what cod and haddock were. I didn't have a clue what a bluefin tuna fish was.
Right. So,
he bought all the gear, Guggen gear, as I would call it today.
Guggen gear. That's
yeah.
You know what? We'll have to talk about a whole line of apparel after that. Guggen gear.
And, we loaded up the boat and out we went. Coincidentally, Billy, on his, brand new Blackfin, the bounty hunter.
Yep.
Was in the slip next to us. In those days, we were at Port Marine in Beverly.
Okay. That's
where Billy used to keep his boat. So he looked at us and he said, "Oh my God, Googans." And we were. There's no question about it. He was very skeptical of us.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange. So we headed on out. And needless to say, we did nothing the first trip out. And did nothing the second trip out. Or the third trip. And pretty discouraged, to be honest with you. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, or my friend Salty Smith, God rest his soul, thought it was going to be. But, we kept at it, and, Billy, he just kind of laughed at us, which was kind of strange. He was really kept to himself. Donna, at that time, Billy, and he had two brothers, John and Blair. Okay. And they'd go out and catch a fish every day. And that was pretty discouraging for myself and Salty. So,
wow.
But we kept at it. And one day we went out and we were trolling. We didn't know how to do anything else. We knew how to put some baits in the water behind the boat, trolling. And we were way up north and all by ourselves. And we hooked up and with no idea what we were doing. And it was on a 82 speed. Yeah. And I fought it out of the rod holder, and the rod holder pulled out of the deck, out of the gunnel. And it was a real show. But somehow, some way, we landed the fish and come back into Port Marine, Beverly, with a fish. And just couldn't believe it. It was just the most exciting and thrilling thing that I think I'd ever done.
Wow.
The adrenaline rush and just the sheer chaos and just the way the reel sounds when it's going out 100 miles an hour. And then just to fight this fish, the power of the fish, all that just added up to one big crescendo when you land that fish in the boat and you see how big it is. And to us, well, to me, it was the biggest fish I had ever seen. It was only about 300 pounds, but to me, it was a giant tuna fish.
Right.
Little did I know that they grow to be 1,000 pounds.
Right.
But, that was my first experience. And from that day on, I knew that I was going to be a giant bluefin tuna fisherman somehow, some way. I was going to do this because once it's in your blood, once you get that adrenaline rush from fighting these fish, it's hard to get rid of. You want to keep doing it. You become an adrenaline junkie for bluefin tuna fish.
Right.
Over the course of the years, Salty moved on and I moved on. Then I got the opportunity to fish with Billy and Donna, and the rest is history.
So you had your boat parked next to Bill and Donna?
Yeah.
No kidding. And that was 27 years ago.
Yeah, that was 27 years ago, and they didn't share much information.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, they were brutal. They pretty much kept to themselves,
now,
which is fine.
Bill and Donna, were they fishing for commercially at that time, or were they?
Yes,
they were. Okay, so
Billy and Donna had been. They started tuna fishing when hand lines were in vogue. I don't know if you're familiar with a hand line is, but
that's something that I'm not real familiar with it, but I think it'd be great for our listeners to understand if you could describe that for us.
Sure.
What that's all about.
Back in the old days when fish were not leader shy, and they were very plentiful, they used to use a thing called a hand line. And what it was a basket full of line, attached to a thinner line that you would put a hook on, basically. And you would bait that, throw it down, the fish would bite it. And what they had was called the shock cord.
Okay.
That shock cord was like a piece of 200 Dacron. All right. That was attached to the line, then attached to the boat. And you knew you got a bite when that shock cord, that 200-pound Dacron popped. I guess it sounded like a cannon. Now, I've never experienced this. I have always just listened to the way Billy would describe it.
Yeah.
And once they took that hand line and took off, the line would scream out of the basket. The coils would pop up and just go and go and go. And you have a pair of, I guess what I described as welding gloves on your hands. And you're holding on to this line. And you're fighting it with your hands. No rod, no reel. It's a hand line.
Right.
So you're connected to that fish with that line. You're tugging on it. He's tugging on you. And, it's a fight. That's how you fought them back in those days, was with a hand line.
Wow.
I can't imagine doing that. I don't think I want to do that. Just the fact that, just how dangerous it can be.
Yeah.
And I think that, they quickly moved the rod and reel.
Right.
After that.
I mean, the friction that must be generated from that line is, you have to wear some kind of massive protective glove.
Just huge welding gloves.
That would make sense.
Line, gloves that, I guess did the job. You would hold that line, against the gunnel, and it would actually burn grooves into the gunnel.
Right.
Billy's, before the blackfin, his, previous boat, they did all the hand lining, and if you looked at the gunnel, there were groove marks all along the gunnel where the lines, where that hand line would go out.
No kidding. Now, where did hand lining go? Did it just kind of?
Well, the fish became, as people, as they migrated to rod and reel and mono, the fish became leader shy, became a little more shy, and they weren't biting hand lines anymore. They could see it, so they became, a little more finicky about what they were taking.
No kidding.
Which has gotten worse over the years to the point where you fish really shy now. So
right. What other changes have you seen over the years, starting back 27 years ago?
27 years ago, fishing was completely different. It was a different type of fishing. We'd go out, you'd anchor up early in the morning, you start chumming, the first waves of fish would come through on that first tide change. You'd hook up, you'd get your fish, and you go home for the day. It was one and done. Those days, there were so many fish being caught up and down the entire East Coast that, the quota was getting filled quickly. So it was regulated to 1 fish a day per boat.
Right.
And you'd get your fish a day and you'd go in. And hopefully it's a good quality fish, a good size, and you can make some money. In those days, you could make some money. Now, the fish, quite frankly, aren't like they used to be. They're smaller. They're not as plentiful. So the quota has not been getting filled. So they open it up to 3 a day, which, some guys do get 3 a day, but typically you get 1 or 2, but you're out there the entire day waiting for that third one.
Right.
And I think the fish, for me to see the changes, I think it seems to be the fish in the days we used to chum, all right? We used to chum fish. You'd set up a chum slick.
Yep.
You'd have your chunks set out behind the boat. We very rarely, up here, we very rarely used live bait. That was kind of a New York guys thing. They live bait all the time.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. New York, New Jersey, they were live bait masters. But we were chunk masters. So we'd put a chunk on the line and just chum for them. Okay. And the fish would come up that chum slick and bing, bang, boom, you'd be on and off to the races. With the regulation of the dogfish now as an endangered species,
yep,
no longer can you chum. The dogfish have overtaken the world, and you can only chum sparingly, and it's turned the fish off to chumming because it's not available to them anymore. You can't chum because the dogfish come, and once the dogfish come, you have to move because they don't go away. So the fish have really turned off from chum. Now, what I see is a live bait fishery. This is what it's turned into.
Okay.
As far as I can tell.
And the dogfish won't hit a live fish.
No, they will, but you fish typically, you'll fish a live bait a little higher. Dogfish, when the sun comes up, they move to the bottom. So they don't like the bright sunlight. So you fish they'll definitely take the live bait, but you try and keep it higher, up off the bottom. But nothing stops the dogfish.
Right.
Once they come, you move.
Gotcha.
Unfortunate that, some scientists thought that they were endangered now. They're an endangered species. Now there's 1 billion of them.
It seems like there's an awful lot out there, and I don't know what the science says, but man, they seem to just chew up your line when you go cod or haddock fishing. That's for sure.
It's really made the fishery difficult. My joke is, this is what I say. I feel like it's a conspiracy from the National Marine Fisheries to regulate. This is how they backwards regulate tuna fishing. Is call the dogfish endangered. Don't let people fish for them, and that way it stops the tuna fishermen from tuna fishing. How's that for conspiracy theory?
I wouldn't be surprised, Scott. I mean,
I don't know. I can't explain it otherwise. The friggin' dogfish should not be endangered.
Right.
Should not be endangered. All right.
Right.
Someone needs to do some new science on it and figure out exactly what the population is.
That would be a great topic for a future show of ours because we'd like to dig into stuff like that and find out what the truths are.
Exactly.
Exactly. And talk to the leading experts on the dogfish fishery and find out what's really going on. Oh. No, you're right. It just seems like, and we've talked to other, especially Matt Rigney, where the government has their hand in a lot of this stuff, and they control certain aspects of fishing, either to the harm or to the good of the tuna fishermen, depending upon where they are, and the enforcement's a problem, it sounds like. But a lot of the times it's just the regulations are put there for other reasons than what it actually is there for. So I don't think you're that far off.
I know. Right. People laugh at me when I say that, but I just can't find any other reason. Right. It doesn't seem logical that you would do that to that particular species, the species that really has no benefit other than, I don't know.
I don't know. It seems like it infuriates every captain I've ever talked to, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the scientists are saying, but I am going to dig into that to find out what the truth is.
It's a great topic. I mean, it
really is.
I mean, it's just not the tuna fishing. It's all the ground fishing. They eat everything. They eat all the babies. They eat everything.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, they're a shark. They're meant to eat a lot and everything.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
They eat and populate. That's all they do.
Right. Yep. So Bill and Donna, you've been fishing with them for the 27 years, or did you actually start fishing with them later after you started your tuna fishing career? I fished with them about a year, about the same year I started fishing with them. I left Salty Smith and had the opportunity to fish with Billy and Donna. The first time I went out with them, we hooked up and got a small fish, and it was on after that. Just the way they fish, the attention to detail, the drive, and the sheer pleasure they get out of fishing, any kind of fishing. It's just, it's amazing to me. And, it's always been why I've stayed on that boat, and Bill's meticulous detail to the boat, the care of the boat. Billy and Donna are good people in general. They seem like really nice people. We only get to experience them from the show. You know them in person.
Sure.
So you've got a different experience, with those guys. And, how has the show changed your life?
That's a really good question. The show in general, other than, people on the street that recognize me from the show and say, hi, can I have a picture with you? Love the show, that type of thing. It really has no impact on my life.
Right.
I have a full-time job. I go to work every day. It's fun. It's fun to have the recognition, I guess, from people out in the street that enjoy the show.
Yep.
That's really a cool part of it. One of the things I really enjoy most is talking to people about the show and about tuna fishing. I enjoy that. When you get somebody who is really interested in it and they want to talk about it, that's a really cool part of it for me.
Right.
That the other part of it, the notoriety, it has advantages and disadvantages, and it has goods and bads, and it all comes with the show.
Right. Right. So the notoriety is something that you kind of, it's changed your life a little bit because people recognize you from the show.
Sure.
I don't know if you realize this or not, but the TV Guide actually has you listed as a celebrity now.
What?
Swear to God.
No way.
Yep. If you type in your name,
yeah,
not too far down, you'll see Scott Ferriero, Bios and Photos TV Guide under Celebrities / Scott Ferriero.
That's hysterical.
Isn't that funny?
People always say to me, you're famous. And I say to them, no, I'm infamous.
You're in TV Guide. You're now famous, Scott.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I'll have to look that up.
Very nice. So tell us a little bit about the Bounty Hunter. Is that Bill's original boat?
Bill's had Bill and the Bounty Hunter. There's been 3 iterations of the Bounty Hunter. The first Bounty Hunter was a topaz, and it wasn't a great boat, I guess. I never got a chance to see it, but I guess if you went out in rough weather, you'd come back an inch shorter because the boat pounded so hard on sea. But nice. So I think they quickly outgrew that. And the first boat I saw Billy and Donna with was the 32-foot blackfin, which I got the chance to fish on, which was a great boat going to and coming home, but it was horrible on anchor because of the deep V. It was just a rock and roll boat. Plus it had a very high tower. So you'd swing back and forth on anchor. You'd be holding on for dear life all day long. But that boat would get you where you want to go to. And in those days, when I first started, Donna fought all the fish out of a fighting chair. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to do something like that. Fighting a fish out of a fighting chair, especially a tuna fish, is a hell of an experience.
I bet it is.
It's it's completely different from fighting out of a rod holder.
Right.
I got several opportunities to do that myself, and I prefer that so much more out of fighting a fish out of a fighting chair instead of a rod holder.
Right.
There's so much more leverage that you get out of your legs and your back, and you're connected better to the fish. You become the shock absorber, so you have a better chance at landing a fish, I think, out of the chair.
Right.
Because you're a shock absorber and you feel what's going on with that fish.
Yeah.
But Donna was phenomenal at it. Oh my, she was the best. I mean, she's caught hundreds and hundreds of bluefin tuna fish in that chair. And, mean, big fish, 900s, 1,000-pound fish that, she just killed the hell out of them. It was really impressive to watch. And then we went to, the commercial style, the Duffy style boat. And that's 6 years now in that boat.
Gotcha. So the Duffy style is the Bounty Hunter as it sits today.
That's correct.
Gotcha. In season 1, everybody had the name of their boat, but it seems like we've seen a lot of FV come on the show lately.
I don't know how that started, but FV is the regulations way of calling it a fishing vessel, FV.
Okay.
Fishing vessel, Bounty Hunter, fishing vessel, Christina, fishing vessel, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why it started, but all of a sudden it did start to pop up.
It seems like a trend that's starting. It's almost fashionable now to call your boat FV something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know
why that started, but you're right. It does.
Right.
It has come up a lot.
Right. How much of the footage that is being shot ends up on TV?
Well, you have to understand there's 5 or 6 boats in the show at one time. The show is an hour long. I think in an hour worth of show, there's only 38 minutes worth of actual show.
Right.
Somewhere around there. And they have to fit all that in from the 5 boats into that time period.
Right.
So not a lot. What gets on the show are things that happen. Either hooking up, losing, fighting, catching, interesting things that happen, maybe, something interesting that happens that
Right.
would catch the attention of the viewer, makes it onto the show.
Right.
Otherwise, it's, 12, 14 hours of sheer boredom.
Right.
Which, that's tuna fishing anyway. It's 14 hours of tedium, accentuated by an hour of sheer terror.
Right. I wanted to ask you about that. It does seem like obviously it's for TV. You're going to watch. It's like, if you watched all the action in baseball, you'd watch 5 minutes of baseball, right?
Exactly.
And so tuna fishing, which is not the way it really is on TV, is that you're waiting around a long time.
That's exactly what
Right.
yes, tuna fishing is, it depends on if the fish are around, but if you head out, and typically every fisherman knows this, fish bite on tide changes.
Right.
That's what they do. We get 2 tide changes, maybe 3 in a fishing session. So in between, unless the fish are really around, they're really eating, there's nothing going on. So
Right.
that's 6 hours, or 5 hours, say. In between, there's nothing going on. And if there's nothing happens the first tide change, that's another 10 hours. It's 10 hours in between stuff going on. So there's a lot of downtime between hooking up and just sitting there. And
Right.
if the fish aren't around and you've picked a bad place to fish that day, guess what? That's 14 hours, 16 hours of absolute boredom.
What do you do during that time if it's 16 hours of doing nothing?
Part of what we do, you're always fishing, so you're always paying attention to detail. So you got to check the lines all the time. You got to make sure that they're clean. You got to make sure you still have bait. So you're always keeping busy. There's always something to do. But a lot of times you're just sitting around watching the fish finder or just, shooting the crap. Doing what you normally do on a boat, waiting for a bite.
Right.
It's not glamorous by any stretch of the imagination.
Do you do other fishing while you're waiting?
You do bait fishing.
Yep.
That's about all you do.
That's about it.
So, other than that, if you happen to be anchored up in a place where there's some ground fish, then yeah, sure. By all means, do some ground fishing. But you got to be careful there too. You don't want to get tangled in your lines. You don't want to be caught doing that. And then you hook up. Then that's something else you got to deal with. So
Right. How many different types of bait have you caught tuna on?
what?
Lots.
There's all kinds of baits. There's all kinds of live bait. Whatever's live, you put on the hook. So that could be mackerel, herring, a cod. It could be anything. Whatever, happen to be swimming around. All kinds of dead bait, whether it be herring or, squid, anything. Whatever is in fashion at that particular time, whatever you think the fish are going to eat is what you try and put on the hook. Whatever they're eating is what you're going to put on the hook.
So you kind of pay attention to what's happening around you for what
Absolutely.
Fish are in the area, and then you decide, hey, this is what we're going to catch today for bait, and then we're going to fish with it and see what happens.
That's exactly right.
Gotcha. when it comes down to when you actually land a fish, the show always puts you driving into a port somewhere. I don't know if it's Gloucester is where you usually go, but you have a buyer, right? And this is one of the things I think is kind of fascinating about the tuna industry. Yes, tuna fishing's awesome and fun, but there's a whole economic piece behind this, which is why you're out there in the first place, really. You're trying to make some money, right?
That's correct. We're not, although some people do it, we're a commercial venture. We're trying to make money. We're trying to pay our bills.
Right.
So we need to sell the fish we catch.
Right.
And to do that, you have to have a licensed buyer. There are several in Gloucester, and what you try and do is get friendly with one that you can trust, and because it's an industry that you can really lose your shirt really quick.
Yep.
If you make some wrong decisions. So you get friendly with a buyer, and our fish are sent on consignment. I know that looks a little different from what's on the show, but the 99% of the fish we catch are sushi grade, Japan sushi grade.
Yep.
They get packed in a coffin full of ice. And they get shipped overnight to Japan to the auction.
Right.
Right. And then we find out what we made later on. The buyer will grade the fish at the dock and give us a general idea what do you think it might be worth. If it should be a domestic fish or we should send it on consignment. In years past, way back when, 15, 20 years ago, they would actually buy the fish right at the dock and pay you. That's gone away. That doesn't happen anymore. The buyers don't want to take that onus upon them.
Right.
They learned quickly that they were getting, they were losing their shirts.
Yeah.
Doing.
What if they're wrong? That could be upside down pretty quickly. The price tag on
happening.
The price tag on these fishes are huge. I mean, it's a big deal. So you could be upside down very fast if you made the wrong judgment call. That's
exactly what was happening. So they really kind of stuck it to us and really made us, carry that burden. And there are times when you can send a fish to Japan. Now, they took a core sample and they looked at the tail steak and said, oh, it's a good fish, blah, 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 blah. It gets there and they cut it open and it's diseased.
Oh, wow.
It has aki or has something. And that fish is a no sale. Well, we're still responsible for all the shipping and handling, everything. So we end up getting a bill for that fish.
Really?
Instead of being paid for it. Yeah. How's that for fun?
That's not fun. So they back out all the money that you would have made.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't sell, they send you a bill for how much does it cost to send a fish overseas? Have you ever had that happen to you?
No, it's never happened. I've only heard stories of that.
Right.
If your buyer is good and he's good to you, that's not going to happen.
Gotcha.
But I have heard that happening. So
you have to have some trust in the guy that's picking up your fish, right? I mean,
that's exactly right. That's why I'm saying, you get in good with a good guy and, you have a working relationship, and that's very important.
Yeah, it seems like you're giving away a $8,000 piece of merchandise, and you're trusting that they're going to come back with your money.
That's correct.
That's a big trust factor right there. I mean, you wouldn't do that to anybody. You just
that's a lot of trust, and I'm not going to tell you that people have not been screwed in the past by unscrupulous buyers. They've screwed a lot of people, and that's why it's very important to get to know your buyer well, and that's a trust thing.
Right. What's the most you've ever made on a fish?
I think Billy had a fish that was over $20,000, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
How big was it?
I think it was in the 400 to 500 pound range, but it was super quality. It was great quality. And this was many years ago.
Right.
And you have to think about this too. The yen versus the dollar has a lot to do with it as well.
Right.
So back when, it was worth some money, they were paying a lot of money. So it was good quality. So, it was like a once in a lifetime fish. But the average we get, 8, 10, somewhere around $10,000.
Okay.
For a good size, good quality fish.
Oh, the cost of doing business out on the ocean, buying the fuel, buying the bait, buying the ice, that's going to add up too, right? So.
Of course it does. I mean, that's an expense that you incur every time you step on that boat. Just the fishing for the day, you're paying for ice, fuel, and bait, and food. All right. That's a $500 bill. If you're just fishing locally.
Right.
You fishing 5 days a week, 6 days a week, that adds up. Then all the incidentals, insurance, boat slip fees, maintenance, all the other things that go with it. Those add up, $25,000, $30,000 a year just for those expenses. So you need to catch some fish to just pay the bills. And then you want to make some money, some pocket money as well.
Right.
So, you got to catch 4, 5, 6 fish a year to, make this thing work.
Just to break even, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Now, when do you start fishing typically?
The tuna fish season opens June 1st.
Okay.
Are the fish around? Not really. They start to migrate in, like the middle of June, late June, early July. You'll get the smaller, although last year the bigger fish came in first. It was kind of weird. But the fish will start to come in around then. As the water warms up a little bit, they stay up high. And, then it's on until, August when they really go down deep because the water's so warm. And then they start to get active again in September and October.
Gotcha. So there's there's a curve, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely a curve.
Okay. Gotcha. Tell me a little bit more about the show. You seem to have, and this could be completely on TV. I don't know. We certainly are aware that many things are staged on TV just for television's sake.
Yep.
It's better viewingship. What's the camaraderie like amongst all the captains and the crew, amongst all the boats that are on the show?
That's between the boats themselves or the people on the boat.
The people on the boat. Like, how do you guys all get along? Is it cutthroat?
Sure. Even if we weren't in the show, if the show did not exist.
Yep.
Once you're on that water,
right,
it becomes very competitive.
Right.
And that stuff like you see on the show is not really staged. A lot of it does happen. There's a lot of backstabbing going on. It's a lot of lying and cheating and false numbers. And cause you have to understand, you're dealing with a person's livelihood. You're dealing with a lot of money at stake with a fish.
Right.
So, that changes people. And, people work hard to catch these fish and are reluctant to just tell you where these fish are so you can catch one too.
Right.
So that's all part of it. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good guys out there too. So what you try and do is align yourself with someone you can trust and someone you want to work with.
Right.
Because it's a two-way street. They're going to help you. You're going to help them. But you quickly learn if someone stabs you in the back, you're not going to, that's it. No more numbers, no more, no more information.
Right.
And that's just the way it has to be.
So how often do you share numbers?
You share numbers with people you work with.
Okay.
And that's all I can say about that.
So you it's another trust factor again. It's a trust factor
Absolutely.
on the ocean.
Yeah. And this is purely from my perspective. What bothers me is and I don't share numbers. That's not what I do. I don't, that's for the captain. Okay. I'm just a mate. I don't say a word about anything about how we fish, where we fished, what we fished. That's entirely the captain's prerogative to give out that information. And people know that. They do not ask me a thing about that because they know better.
Right.
But, if Billy decides he wants to share numbers, he's going to share them with somebody that he knows he can trust and work with. What bothers me about it is that person may then have other friends they tell and they tell and they tell.
Right.
Before you know it, there's 25 boats where you were fishing. So a secret is never a secret in this fishery.
You're almost better off not to share anything.
Yeah, but it's a two-way street though.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword where if you don't share, then you're not going to get any information either.
Gotcha.
So you're not going to.
Right.
But I don't have a problem with that. The days gone by, we used to find our own fish.
Right.
You drive around when you could afford to spend the fuel money, when fuel was 75 cents a gallon.
Right.
At $4.75 a gallon.
Right.
You could drive around and look for these fish. You didn't mind. It's a different story today. Yeah. So you do rely on information.
Yeah. These days, fuel prices are they're all relative to the economy and it's all caught up. And now it's a big ticket to just drive around looking for fish.
You just can't. It's way too expensive.
Right. Now, when you say you work with somebody else, what does that mean?
To work with somebody is you talk with them before you head out and you talk about where he's going to go and where you're going to go, in particular fishing areas. And then you talk about the course of the day. Did you see this? What did you see? Did you hook up? Did you hook? What, you talk about what's going on. And if my area looks promising, and I would tell you, come on over here. I think, we got a good chance over here. We're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing a lot of that. And vice versa. If they see a lot going on over there, they'll tell us to come on over here. It looks promising over there. That's working with somebody.
Okay.
Also, what baits, if they hook up, what bait did they hook up on? How deep was it? Blah, blah, blah. All that secret information.
Gotcha. All the depths, the bait,
Yep.
where you are, the depths, the bait, and that's basically it.
Sure.
Do you have alignments with somebody else on the show, or are there captains that aren't on the show that you work with?
Yes.
Yes. Gotcha. Good answer. You've been on our Facebook page and our Twitter site. I think that's probably how we connected initially.
Yes.
And there was, I had asked the question to our audience on Facebook about define Guggen. And I was happy to see you jumped in there because there was all kinds of answers.
Right.
But you seem to have an insight as to where the word Guggen actually came from. You want to share that story with us?
Now, it's the secondhand from actually Billy.
That's
Billy
okay.
Moore. Okay. There's a tuna fisherman. He's a harpooner and a commercial fisherman. His name is Billy Manise. He's a phenomenal fisherman and a great harpooner, by the way. And one day he was talking about fishing and people, coming around him, and he just called them Googans. They're Googans. And from that day forward, that name just stuck. I don't know where he got the word from. I don't know if he knew what he was saying. But that's how the word Guggen came about. From what I understand. Now, he may have heard it from somewhere else, but my understanding, that's the first time I had ever heard it, and that Billy had ever heard it. And, from that day forward, anybody who, is a novice, inexperienced, pain in the ass is a Guggen.
Like you were one day.
Yes.
Long ago, 27 years ago.
I'm speaking from experience.
That's excellent. That's excellent. As far as the superstitious, aspects of being on the water, what's your perspective on bananas?
Bananas to me that's just a silly superstition. I've never believed that. I never will believe that. But, there are people, that absolutely believe that a banana on a boat is the worst luck you can possibly have. I don't believe that, and I never will.
Right.
I'm not a superstitious person by nature, so I believe in your own luck, and a banana's not going to stop me from fishing. So,
yeah, it's just one of those old silly tales.
yeah, it is. And I've actually did some research on trying to find out how that superstition actually started.
Yep.
And there are varying accounts of it, and I still don't understand how.
Right. And you can see how, at some point maybe there's a box of bananas had some nasty spiders and might have killed a couple people from a spider bite. I can see, way back when we didn't know better, that could have happened. But
exactly.
Yeah, that's where it came from. That's where most of these things come from. But other than that, I don't believe it.
Exactly right.
Donna seems to be on and off the boat from time to time. She sounds like she has a job, and you have a full-time job. What do you do for a living?
I'm in sales. I work for a company in Boston called Boston Light Source. We're a lighting manufacturer's representative.
Okay.
I run a lighting controls group for that company. And that's what I do.
Nice. And do you get to fish, or do you take time off to go fishing during the summer?
I take my accrued vacation, and use that up, and then I just take days unpaid off. And my company is, very supportive of this endeavor and my fishing, and, they allow me to do that.
That's excellent. That's, you don't find companies that would understand that too much to go fishing, but it's another piece of your livelihood, I assume, correct?
Not really.
Not really. All right. Somewhat.
Fishing, it's not,
you love it.
Yeah, I love it. It's not about the money for me. It's the passion of tuna fishing, and it's a passion of mine, and I just like to pursue that passion. That's really what it's about for me.
Well, speaking of passion, and this is just, again, from watching the show, you seem to be the most lively mate on the show. You have the most passion. The animation that you bring to the show, I think, is the best of anybody. Some people are kind of calm and don't get kind of fired up, but you get fired up. Where does that come from?
It comes from I just love being on that boat. I love fishing, and it's just my passion for what I'm doing out there on the water. Gotcha. And I can't explain it. It's like football. When you're a football player and you put that helmet on, you put those cleats on, you step on that field.
Yep.
That passion comes out.
Right.
You know you're doing something. You know that you love to do this, and this is what you want to do. And that's what happens when I step on that boat. When I put that gear out and we hook up, it's different for me. It's flipping a switch, and I just love it. And it's hard for me to contain myself at times, but I just love it. And I want people to understand how fun and rewarding this can be, and how painful and hard it is at the same time.
Right.
It's really a love-hate kind of thing. You love to be out there doing this, but you hate it when you work so hard and you lose a fish of size, or you lose any fish.
Right. Right. It is disappointing, and there's a lot of emotion that goes into fishing. And like you said, there's a lot of waiting, but then all of a sudden it's on fast, and then it's like chaos beyond belief, right?
Of course, it's all hell breaks loose. For that initial 30 seconds to a minute, all hell's breaking loose. That rod is screaming. You got to bring in the other lines and get the boat off the anchor, and there's a lot of things you have to go through in that first initial 30 seconds to have a chance of fighting this fish.
Gotcha. Do you think that the show is bringing out more recreational fishermen than before?
I think in the first season, believe it or not, they made it look too easy in the first season.
Yeah.
The first season, it was you'd hook up, you'd reel, and the fish was in the boat. And, that's $10,000. Well, that really gave us a false sense to people out there that, anybody can do this. Let's go make some money.
Right.
So I think that that enticed a lot of Googans to buy a boat, buy some gear, and go out fish.
Go give it a shot, right?
Yeah. The second season, they sort of adjusted that by putting a fight clock and actually showing you, how hard it is to actually catch these things. But to answer your question, yes, I think a lot more people are out there, but at the same time, the cost of doing it prohibits most people from entering this sport.
Right.
Just the cost of gear, cost of fuel, cost of everything.
Right.
Unless you have a lot of discretionary income, you're not going to get into this thing and make any money at it.
Right. Do most of the other crewmates and captains have jobs outside of the show?
Most do. I think who's the only really dyed and true? Dave Marciano used to be a dyed and true commercial fisherman for the show, but I think he's the only real true commercial fisherman. The rest of us, in the off season, have jobs to support ourselves.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seemed like I couldn't quite tell with you guys. It seemed like
Billy is retired.
He is retired. Okay.
Yep. He worked long and hard his life. And he lived a hard life as a mechanic, truck mechanic.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. And Donna still working. The reason she wasn't on the show that much is she had switched jobs and she didn't have any vacation time. So it really only allowed her to fish on the weekends.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
I think that changes this year.
Right.
She's accrued some vacation where she can come out now during the week again.
Yeah, it seemed like Marciano was a year-round guy almost, and I don't know if is he fishing out of Gloucester the whole time, or is he going south?
No, he fished not on his boat. He fished on some larger boats down in Bedford.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And .com, he's a pilot or something.
Yeah, he's a pilot for JetBlue, and Sandro is a BMW mechanic, and actually Dave Marciano's mate, is a year-round mate.
Okay.
Fishes all kinds of stuff.
Gotcha. What about Tyler from the Pinwheel? Is he full-time?
I don't know what he's full-time at. No, I don't think he's full-time.
Gotcha. He was an interesting addition to the show. No question about it.
Tyler's a phenomenal fisherman.
Seems like it. Yeah, he seems like a great fisherman.
He was about 6 inches tall. His father was a really good fisherman too. Mm-hmm. Tuna fisherman, and he's been around there for all his life. So it doesn't surprise me that he is as good as he is, and he's driven. If you get past all the antics, he's a driven fisherman. He works extremely hard at it. I mean, they fish 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
It seems like, yeah, he's a very driven guy.
That takes phenomenal amount of effort to do that.
Right.
And, it does, like, you can burn your crew out, which he has a tendency to do, but he's definitely driven to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like he has that young man antics and spirits and playfulness, but you can see that he's pretty darn driven to make sure that he's on top too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's very competitive, you can tell.
Yeah, I can't fault him for that.
Right.
And,
No, you can't. You can't. Definitely not.
Tabuti's a good fisherman, so
right.
I can't fault him for any of that.
Yep.
Look for the bounty hunter to come back strong in season 3.
Cool.
We'll make some changes to really show you what we can do. It's been a tough couple of years for us. What you have to realize is, although you may have not seen it on the show, we hooked up 37 short fish, and they were short by 1 or 2 inches. By far the most hookups of any boat in the fleet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
see, they portray that a little different, like that you're.
Yep.
It's only they make it seem like you're not hooking up that much because you're not actually bringing in a saleable fish, right?
That's exactly right.
And it's 73 inches. That's when you can start keeping and selling. Is that correct?
Yeah, 73 inches is the minimum legal length of a tuna fish for commercial purposes, and we had 37 of them that were just under 73
That's crazy.
inches. Yeah.
Well, hopefully those 37 come back this year 4 inches longer.
Yeah, exactly right.
That
I wouldn't have minded getting a couple of those couple of slobs we had, which were well over 1,000 pounds. But that's tuna fishing. You hope to get them all, but invariably you don't. And you know what? You can't get down. That's one thing that you cannot do to yourself is you can't get discouraged because it's just another day, and they'll be back again, and we'll be back again, and we'll catch our share of fish this year. There's no question in my mind.
Right. I'm sure you will. And you guys, you seem like diehard fishermen. You love it. You're going to keep going hard.
Of course.
You're driven when the season arrives and you're just going to keep going. And as far as the show is concerned, do they kind of put you in different positions to try to make things happen, or do you have input into what you want to happen on the show? No,
they completely they're in the driver's seat.
They're in the driver's seat. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, they want us to catch fish.
Yep.
They don't have a show unless we catch fish.
It is kind of amazing. I think I've been out on our boat a couple times. We've seen you guys out there, and except it's like there's a helicopter, and then there's like 2 other boats with cameras. It's really it's got to be a little awkward if you look at your life today when you go fishing with cameras on you all the time and helicopters flying over you. It's going to be different than it was 3 years ago.
Absolutely. And, people do ask me that question quite a bit. What's it like to have cameras on you all the time? The first season was annoying. Yeah. It was a little disconcerting. It was all those things that you knew it was going to be. But towards the end of the season, you became accustomed to it.
Right.
And that was really, if you have a real good shooter producer, he makes it that way. So, the second season, they became almost like part of the crew, and they become part of you and the boat. And the cameras kind of go away. You're not so cognizant of them, and you just do your thing.
Do they stay out of the way of the cameramen? Do they know when?
For the most part,
okay.
Yeah, we teach them. The first year they didn't. They were always in the way. Second year, much better. They knew, once they saw a fish being caught and what actually happens, they know where to stand, not where to stand, how to not be in the way. But they have to get their shots too, so it's kind of a dance. You do a dance with the cameraman, basically.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. How did you get picked to be on the show in the first place? Was there a application process?
Let me tell you about this thing. This is one of my favorite stories.
Excellent.
The first year, the first season, I think it was in January, the year before last. Billy had got a call from a friend of his asking him, was not a boat captain, if he'd be interested in being in a TV show about bluefin tuna fishing. And Billy called me and said, hey, so-and-so wants to know if we'd like to be interested in this show about tuna fishing. But what are you talking about?
Right.
What's the details? Blah, 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 blah. We went on and on and on. I said, hey, let's find out what it's all about, and then we make a decision. So we found out the details. It was, Pilgrim Films out in California. Wanted to do a show on bluefin tuna fishing. They did some research and found out that Boston or the Northeast is the primo area for bluefin tuna fishing. The fish are worth the most money here. And this is where they come to, really. This is where the most bluefin tuna fish are caught in the United States.
Right.
So they did some research on boats, and they got a list of boats together. I think they had 25 or 30 boats that they had in mind. And we said we'd be interested. They said, okay. They sent out these flip video cameras.
Yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with those. Okay.
And a list of questions. We each had to sit in front of the flip video camera and read the questions and answer them. And it was probably, 10 pages of questions.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now that I think back on it, it was really to see what your camera presence was, if you could speak intelligently, if you had what they were looking for. Because I think that's part of what the show is about is, you gotta have a little bit of presence on the camera. So, we did that. We did the flip video camera. Billy did it. I did it. Donna did it. We sent them back.
Yep.
And 2 months go by. And meanwhile, we started fishing. So, it's like nothing's going on. We figured, okay, they didn't like us, or they decided not to do the show. Another month goes by. And another month goes by. It's like 4 months before we hear from them.
Yeah.
Now, we're into tuna fishing season. It's like July. And, we get a call from them. Hey, we've narrowed the boats down. We're coming out from California to do formal interviews.
Wow.
Sit-down interviews. Okay. When are you going to do that? Well, in a couple of weeks. No, now we're into August. Middle of August, they finally show up to do these 2.5-hour sit-down interview in front of a camera. It was.
Are you a patient guy?
I am patient. I
You're
have
patient.
a
Okay.
tremendous amount of patience.
Gotcha.
So, we sit down, we do these interviews, and then they go away again. Now we're into September. Near the end of September, I get a call from the executive producer from Pilgrim Films, who's in charge of our show.
Yep.
And he says, "Hey, Scott, you're going to be a TV star." I'm like, who the hell is this? What are you talking about? Yeah, we've decided that the Bounty Hunter is one of the 5 boats that we want for the show. And we're in September. We're coming out and we're going to set the boat up. I said, fellas, you already missed the seat. It's the end of September. We're going into October.
It's long gone.
By the time you get here and get everything set up, it'll be November. And didn't they do that? They came out in November. We fished November and December, to get enough fish for that first season.
You fished in December?
Yeah.
Just for the TV show. Wow.
Yep. All of November and December. It was horrible.
See, so that was December 2011. Is that right?
Yep.
So that they would air it the following.
Yep.
Do they air in the summer? I think it was when.
Yes, they air in the summer.
Yeah,
they aired the following April.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was hard to get enough fish to fill up that.
Yeah, the season's kind of over. They've kind of migrated south, right? At that point,
Yep.
and
basically, it's you're really lucky to get fish that late in the year.
Right.
And if you do get one, actually, it's worth a lot of money because they're big and fat and oily, and it's really good quality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a bonus to catch a fish that late. But we did it, and the show was good enough for them to pick up a second season, and the second season started much earlier last year. So we got the entire summer season in plus the fall.
Right.
And it jumped from 10 episodes to 15 episodes this year.
Oh, so you've signed up for an additional 15.
It went up. The first year was only 10.
10 the first year. Okay.
Yeah, and then we bounced to 15 this season.
Okay.
And I'm not sure we might go more than that this year, maybe 18.
Gotcha. You're still waiting to figure that out?
Yeah, we haven't heard from them yet on that.
Right. Now, it's the number 1 show on National Geographic, right? Is that correct?
It's the highest rated ever show on National Geographic.
That's insane. I mean, think of all the great shows they've had on National Geographic.
I know. When I heard that and actually saw it, I was like, are you kidding me?
That's incredible.
I was dumbfounded by that. I don't, the show is hugely popular.
Yeah.
For the Mississippi West.
Yep.
It's insanely popular. And it's very popular among women. believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That's, I mean, congratulations on that. That's so cool. And I love the show. I actually didn't hear about it until season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, most people didn't.
Yeah. And I had gone out, I do some ground fishing, stuff like that. And, my buddies started saying, oh, you got to start watching the show called Wicked Tuna. I'm like, what's that? Well, what do you mean Wicked Tuna? I said, oh, there's all these guys from Gloucester. They go out and they're on TV and it's really funny and they catch tuna and like, okay, and I'm not a big TV guy in general. I do watch it when I find something I like, and I was glued to the television for the rest of the summer. That show caught my eye. It was awesome. So I can see how it will grow in popularity, and it seems to, I hope it continues for you guys. Hope this goes further for you, and if you want it to.
Sure. I think, I do too. For me, it's good and bad. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
They're, with the advent of social media.
Yep.
That it allows people to comment, behind a keyboard and basically say whatever they want.
Right.
So what's very important is to have thick skin.
Yes.
When you're doing something like this, because not everybody's going to like you.
Right.
And it's important. And, really this is for, the other guys in the show that, you can't let people's really bad, nasty comments, bother you. You have to have thick skin and know that, for every one bad comment, there's 1,000 good comments.
Absolutely.
So, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
Being exposed to the public like we are. And if you're going to do this, then you have to be willing to accept that.
Right. Yep. I know that there have been some comments on Facebook that caught you off guard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's happened to other guys, but yeah, it's got to be a different experience where and we've got other shows too. And it's, it's about hunting. It's about fishing. And we certainly have had our handful of anti-hunters that come onto our sites and just try to infiltrate it and make their comments. And so you're not going to please everybody. You'll never do that. So it's no big deal.
Nope. And, it just takes some getting used to, and it's important that, they are actively looking for a couple more boats for the show. I don't know if you noticed that on Facebook. There's a call out.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's good to know. I will, I'll share that in our show notes and let everybody know that they're looking for a couple more boats. Mm-hmm. How do you think they go about the process
Well, there's a lot to it actually. And first and foremost, you have to pass the background check.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. You have to be squeaky clean. You have to be clean. You can't, there's no screwing around. They check everything.
I would think they wouldn't want any bad press, right? What if they had some bad guy on the show and he goes off and does something that's really bad publicity for the show? Because from a marketing standpoint, once you're in the limelight, and you're known as a brand, you could do something wrong and it really screws it up.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're a nobody and you do something wrong, it actually helps you.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Good point.
It makes you more popular.
Exactly.
So now they're kind of there. They're #1 rated show on Nat Geo ever. And yeah, I can see how they want to make sure they've got some pretty good guys. Yeah.
So the background check's pretty intense. And then, it's important. You have to understand that the cameras are there are there all the time. And you have to, questions are, if the producer asks you questions, you have to answer the question. You have to be engaging with the camera. That's part of the show. I mean, listen, it's a TV show. It's not a documentary. What people have to understand, this is not a documentary about tuna fishing. This is real life tuna fishing. Right. This is what we do when we go out there. We're not professed to be the best tuna fishermen in the world. What you have in that show is a cross section of guys that tuna fish, right? Some better than others, some worse than others, but it's just a cross section of guys in boats that are tuna fishing. We've never said we're the best. And, I know some of the best tuna fishermen in the world are, who they are. They're not in this show.
They're not in this show. Interesting. That's interesting. Who could you say who you think the best tuna fishermen are?
No, I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, no problem.
But I know who they are, and those guys catch 50, 60 fish a year, and they're good at it.
That's crazy. Now,
Yeah.
his brother is Bruce has a great reputation from what we understand as far as being a great tuna fisherman. Is that accurate?
Yes. His whole family is really good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another tuna fishing family right there. Been in it since, little boys. And Bruce is really good in his own right. He hasn't done it much of late. I think he just got really re-involved with it because of his brother Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good. Absolutely good.
Gotcha. Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate you spending all this time with us, Scott.
My pleasure.
It's love having you on the show. We'd love to have you back again.
Sure.
If people want to reach you, how would you recommend they reach out to you?
You can always reach me on Facebook or Twitter.
Okay.
That's probably the best place to do it.
All right. What are your handles on Facebook and Twitter?
My Twitter handle is Scott_Tuna_fish.
Okay.
And then my Facebook is just Scott Ferriero.
Okay. Very good, man. I appreciate it. Awesome. Are you going to come out with some Guggenware?
I gotta come out with some Guggen. Did you see my Guggen cheer?
No.
Oh, you missed that episode, huh?
I haven't watched them all yet. I've been,
all right. There's an episode with a Guggen cheer. You have to see that.
Well, thanks again, Scott. We'll hopefully have you back on the show sometime soon.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Scott Ferriero from Wicked Tuna and the FV Bounty Hunter. Good luck to Scott on this upcoming season starting June 1st. I'm sure if you are out off the coast of Gloucester, you're bound to see the Bounty Hunter out there with film crews and other boats and helicopters and so on. But we do wish the Bounty Hunter and the crew and Scott the best of luck this next coming season, and hopefully he'll catch some of those big fish that weren't showing up last year. So this is Jay Scott, your host of Bluefin Registry's Tails Up podcast. If you'd like to reach out to us and find us, we are on Facebook at facebook.com/Bluefin Registry. You can also find us on Twitter our handle on Twitter is Bluefin Registry. Our website is www.bluefinregistry.com. And if you'd like to submit a picture of a fish, or tell us a story, shoot me an email if you'd like to be on this show. We are actively looking for some great interviews, and if you've got what it takes, shoot us an email. My email is j@bluefinregistry.com. So that's it. That's a wrap. We'll see you next time right here on Bluefin Registry's Tails Up podcast.